I'd been looking forward to this dinner for weeks, not because I particularly enjoyed my in-laws' company, but because I thought maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. I was a senior data analyst at a healthcare consulting firm. I'd spent the last 3 years building predictive models that helped hospitals reduce readmission rates. My work had been cited in 2 industry publications. I was good at what I did. I knew I was good. But when Terrence's mother asked what I did for a living the way she always did, as if she'd never been told before, I watched my husband's face carefully. "She works with computers," he said, reaching for the bread basket. His mother nodded, already looking away. "That's nice, dear." His sister Diane was scrolling through her phone. "Terrence, did you see that article about the new restaurant downtown? We should go." I set my fork down quietly. Terrence didn't correct his mother. He didn't elaborate. He just reached for the butter. "Actually," I said, my voice steady, "I analyze patient data to improve healthcare outcomes." His mother smiled at me the way you smile at a child who's told you about their finger painting. "How wonderful." Then she turned to Terrence. "Your father and I were thinking about that vacation property in Hilton Head. We'd love for you all to come down in August." I noticed she said, "you all," but was only looking at Terrence. The rest of dinner continued like that. I was present, but not really there. When I spoke, there was a slight pause before anyone responded, as if they had to remember I was in the room. Terrence's father talked about the business, a commercial real estate firm where Terrence worked as a property manager. Diane talked about her interior design clients. Terrence's mother talked about the garden club. Nobody asked me anything. When I got up to help clear the plates, Terrence's mother touched my arm. "Oh, don't worry about that, sweetheart. You just relax." It sounded kind. It probably was kind. But it also meant I wasn't needed in the kitchen where the real conversation would happen. I sat in the living room alone for 15 minutes, listening to their voices drift in from the other room. Laughter, the clinking of dishes, the comfortable rhythm of people who belong together. When we drove home that night, I asked Terrence why he'd said I worked with computers. He glanced at me, then back at the road. "That's what you do, isn't it?" "That's not all I do." "Okay." He turned on the radio. I looked out the window at the streetlights sliding past. I didn't say anything else. That dinner wasn't the beginning. It was just the first time I really noticed. Before we begin, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing our family from all around the world come together. Thank you for being here and sharing your time with us. The pattern had been there for a while, I realized. Small things. At Terrence's company holiday party, his boss had asked what I did. Before I could answer, Terrence said, "She keeps busy." At Thanksgiving, his cousin asked about my work. Terrence said, "She's got one of those tech jobs," and laughed like it was a private joke. At a neighborhood barbecue, someone asked if I worked. Terrence said, "Yeah, she does something with healthcare data," in the same tone you'd use to say someone worked at the DMV. I started to pay attention to how he introduced me. "This is my wife." Never my name first. Never what I did. I noticed other things, too. When we were with his family, he sat next to Diane. When we were at parties, he stood with the men, and I stood with the women, except the women were talking about things I didn't have, children, mostly, and the men were talking about work. I tried to join the men's conversation once. I'd read an article about commercial property trends. I thought Terrence might appreciate me showing interest in his field. His father was mid-sentence when I spoke up. I read that office spaces in the city are transitioning to mixed-use developments. Terrence's father looked at me. Then at Terrence. Terrence smiled. "She reads a lot." They laughed. Kind laughter, affectionate laughter. The kind that says, "Isn't she sweet?" I didn't try again. At home, Terrence was different, quieter. We'd eat dinner and watch television. He'd ask about my day in the general way people ask when they're being polite. "How was work?" "Good. We got approval for the pediatric ER model." "That's great, babe." Then he'd turn back to his phone. I started testing something. I'd tell him about my projects in detail, the statistical methods, the challenges, the outcomes. He'd nod. Mm-hmm. His eyes never left the screen, but when Diane called to talk about a client who wanted to redo their living room, he'd put the phone on speaker and engage completely. He'd ask questions. He'd offer opinions. He'd laugh at her stories about difficult clients. I'd be sitting right there. The mornings had their own particular quality of absence. I'd wake up before Terrence, usually around 6. I'd lie there for a few minutes, listening to him breathe, wondering if I should wake him, wondering what we'd talk about if I did. I never did. Instead, I'd get up quietly. I'd shower, I'd make coffee. By the time he came downstairs, I'd already be reviewing reports on my laptop at the kitchen table. "Morning," he'd say, pouring himself coffee. "Morning." "Sleep okay?" "Fine, you?" "Yeah." Then silence. He'd check his phone. I'd look at my screen. We'd exist in the same space without really occupying it together. Some mornings he'd mention something about his day. "Got that property inspection at 10. Should be straightforward." "That's good." Other mornings we didn't even manage that much. We'd move around each other like roommates, efficient, polite, separate. I'd leave first, usually. "Have a good day." "You too." In the car, I'd sit for a moment before starting the engine. The steering wheel was cold. I'd think about going back inside, about saying something real, about asking him when we'd stop talking to each other, but I never did that either. Maybe I was afraid of the answer. One evening, Terrence's mother called while we were having dinner. He answered immediately, his face brightening in a way it hadn't when he'd come home and seen me. "Hey, Mom, what's up?" I continued eating my pasta, listening to half a conversation. "Yeah, we're just having dinner." Pause. "I don't know. Let me ask." He looked at me. "Mom wants to know if we can come over Sunday. She's making pot roast." "Sure." He went back to the phone. "Yeah, we'll be there." Another pause. "No, nothing special. Just hanging out." He laughed at something she said. I wondered what I would have been doing if he'd said no. Probably sitting here eating pasta. Maybe reading. Maybe working on the model I'd been thinking about all week. I don't know. It didn't really matter. He talked to his mother for another 10 minutes. About Diane's new project. About his father's golf game. About the neighbors who were renovating their kitchen. When he hung up, he took another bite of his now cold dinner. "Your mom sounds good," I said. "Yeah, she's excited about the pot roast." "She knows it's my favorite." I nodded. I'd made pot roast for him twice. He'd never mentioned it was his favorite. I'd stopped making it after the second time when he'd eaten it without comment, and then spent an hour on the phone with Diane about throw pillows. "Should I bring anything Sunday?" I asked. "Nah, she's got it covered." We finished dinner in silence. I washed the dishes. He dried them, which was something I supposed. At least we still did that together. Work was different. At work, I had a name that people used. "Sarah, can you look at these patient outcome metrics?" "Sarah, your presentation to the board was excellent." "Sarah, do you have a minute to discuss the readmission algorithm?" I was Sarah at work. At Terrence's family dinners, I was increasingly uncertain what I was. Terrence's wife, mostly. Sometimes not even that. Sometimes just she or her or, the one who does something with computers. I'd started to notice how rarely Terrence's family used my name. His mother would say dear or sweetheart. His father would nod in my direction without any address at all. Diane called me girl sometimes, in that casual way that made me feel like an accessory. At my desk on a Tuesday afternoon, my supervisor stopped by. The fluorescent light above her head was flickering slightly. "Sarah, I wanted to thank you again for that emergency analysis last week. The client was extremely impressed." It was no problem. The data was cleaner than I expected. "Still, you turned it around in 48 hours. That's impressive work." She paused. I'm putting you up for a promotion, senior to lead analyst. I think you're ready." I felt something warm spread through my chest. Recognition, validation, the sense that someone had actually seen the work I'd done. "Thank you. I appreciate that. You've earned it." After she left, I sat at my desk for a while, looking at the spreadsheet on my screen without really seeing it. I thought about texting Terrence. Then I thought about how he'd respond. "That's great, babe." Without looking up from whatever he was doing, I didn't text him. That night at dinner, I mentioned it anyway. I couldn't help myself. "Linda recommended me for a promotion today." He looked up from his plate. "Yeah, that's good." "Lead analyst. It's a significant step up." "Cool. More money?" "Some. But it's more about the responsibility. I'd be overseeing major projects, presenting directly to hospital executives." "Nice." He took another bite. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it. "It means they value the work I've been doing." "Mm-hmm." He was reading something on his screen now. I set down my fork. "Terrence." "What?" He looked up. "Did you hear what I said?" "Yeah, you got a promotion. That's great." "Recommended for a promotion. It's not official yet." "Okay, recommended for a promotion. That's great." His phone rang. "Diane." He answered. I picked up my plate and took it to the sink. I stood there, running water over it, listening to him laugh at something his sister said. I thought about Linda's face when she'd told me about the promotion, how she'd smiled, how she'd looked genuinely happy for me. I thought about Terrence's face when I'd told him, how it had barely changed at all. Sunday dinner at his parents' house was exactly what I expected. His mother's pot roast was perfect. The table was set beautifully. Everyone was in good spirits. "Terrence, honey, I made your favorite," his mother said, bringing the platter to the table. "It looks amazing, Mom." Diane was already seated, scrolling through her phone. "Oh my God, you guys have to see this house I'm working on. The client has the worst taste." Terrence leaned over to look. "Wow, that's a lot of leopard print." They laughed together. His mother came around to look too. Even his father wandered over from where he'd been carving the roast. I sat in my chair watching them cluster around Diane's phone. There was a water ring on the table near my napkin. "Anyway," Diane said, putting her phone away as everyone settled into their seats, "the budget is insane. I basically have carte blanche." "That must be exciting," I said. She glanced at me as if she'd forgotten I was there. "Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, challenging, but great." "What's the biggest challenge?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Just managing expectations, you know? Clients always think they want one thing, but they actually want something completely different." "That sounds frustrating." "It is, but that's the job." She turned to Terrence. "Speaking of which, remember that weird client I told you about? The one who wanted me to make her bathroom look like a jungle?" "Oh God, yeah. What happened with that?" They launched into a conversation about bathrooms and jungle themes and difficult clients. His mother added comments. His father made jokes. I ate my pot roast. It was very good. I made a mental note of how she'd prepared it, though I didn't know why I bothered. "Sarah," Terrence's mother said suddenly, and I was so surprised to hear my name that I looked up too quickly. "How is your work going?" "It's going well. I'm actually up for a promotion." "Oh, that's wonderful. Terrence didn't mention it." I glanced at Terrence. He was cutting his meat, not looking at either of us. "It's not official yet," I said, "but my supervisor recommended me for lead analyst." "Lead analyst," his mother repeated, smiling in that vague way that meant she had no idea what that meant but was being polite. "It means I'd oversee major projects and present to executives." "How lovely. You must be very good with computers." I opened my mouth to correct her, to explain that it wasn't about being good with computers, but about statistical modeling and healthcare outcomes and predictive analytics. Then I closed it again. What was the point? "Thank you," I said instead. "Terrence, did you hear that?" his mother said. "Sarah's getting a promotion." "Yeah, she told me," he said, not looking up. "You must be so proud of her." "Yeah, of course." His mother beamed at both of us, satisfied that she'd facilitated a moment of marital appreciation. Then she turned to Diane. "And how is your business going, sweetheart?" Diane launched into an update. Everyone listened attentively. They asked questions. They made supportive comments. They engaged. I finished my pot roast and waited for dinner to be over. Later that week, I worked late. There was a deadline approaching and the data wasn't cooperating. I stayed at the office until almost 9, running models, checking variables, troubleshooting errors. When I finally got it working, when the model finally produced clean, reliable outputs, I felt a surge of satisfaction. This was good work, important work, work that would help people, even if they never knew my name. I texted Terrence that I'd be home soon. He texted back, "Okay." When I got home, he was watching a basketball game. I dropped my bag by the door and went to the kitchen to find something to eat. "How was your day?" he called from the living room. "Long, but productive." "That's good." I made myself a sandwich and brought it into the living room. I sat on the other end of the couch. The leather was cold against my legs. "I finally got the readmission model working," I said. "Cool." His eyes never left the television. I ate my sandwich. The game went to commercial. He checked his phone. I looked at him, really looked at him, and tried to remember the last time we'd had a conversation that lasted more than 5 minutes. I couldn't. Or maybe I was forgetting something, but I didn't think so. "Terrence." "Hmm? Do you know what I worked on today?" He glanced at me, confused. "You said something about a model?" "A readmission model. Do you know what that is?" "Not really." "Do you want to know?" He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something flicker across his face. Discomfort, maybe, or guilt. But then, the game came back on, and whatever it was disappeared. "Sure," he said, but he didn't mute the television. I didn't explain. I finished my sandwich and went upstairs to bed. The next morning was Saturday. I woke up early out of habit. Terrence was still asleep. I went downstairs and made coffee, then sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I wasn't working. I was just sitting there, looking at the screen, thinking about nothing in particular. Terrence came down around 9. "Morning." "Morning." He poured coffee and sat across from me. For a moment, I thought maybe we'd talk. Maybe we'd have a real conversation. Maybe he'd ask me about the model or the promotion or anything at all. Instead, he said, "Want to go to Home Depot? I need some stuff for the garage." "Sure." We went to Home Depot. We walked through the aisles together, not touching. He found what he needed. We went home. He went to the garage to work on whatever project he was doing. I went back to the kitchen table with my laptop. That night, Diane called. He talked to her for over an hour. I could hear his voice from upstairs, animated and engaged. When he finally came up to bed, I pretended to be asleep. The promotion came through officially on a Wednesday. Linda called me into her office and gave me the news with a handshake and a genuine smile. "Congratulations, Sarah. You've earned this." "Thank you. I'm excited to take on more responsibility. You'll be great. I have complete confidence in you." Walking back to my desk, I felt light, proud, seen. I called Terrence from my office. "Hey," he answered. He sounded distracted. "I got it. The promotion. It's official." "Oh, hey, that's great. Congrats." "Thanks." "I'm pretty excited." "You should be. That's awesome, babe." There was a pause. I waited for him to ask questions, to ask when it would start or what my new responsibilities would be or how we should celebrate. "I'm actually in the middle of something," he said. "Can I call you back?" "Sure." He didn't call back. That evening, I stopped at the grocery store on the way home. I bought ingredients for a nice dinner. Nothing fancy, but nicer than our usual weeknight meals. I thought maybe we could celebrate quietly, just the two of us. When I got home, Terrence was on the couch with his laptop. "Hey," I said, "I'm going to make dinner." "Cool. I already ate, though." "Sorry, I got hungry." I looked at the pizza box on the coffee table. "Oh, okay. But you go ahead. I'll hang out while you eat." I put the groceries away. I made myself a simple pasta. He stayed on the couch, working on his laptop. When I brought my plate into the living room, he looked up. "How was the rest of your day?" "Good, busy." "Cool." I ate my pasta. He went back to his laptop. After a few minutes, his phone rang. Diane. He answered immediately, his whole demeanor changing. "Hey, Dee, what's up?" I listened to him talk to his sister about a client who was indecisive about paint colors. He was patient, engaged, interested. I finished my pasta and took my plate to the kitchen. I washed it slowly, carefully, listening to his voice drift in from the other room. I thought about how I'd felt in Linda's office that morning, how seen I'd been, how valued. I thought about how I felt in this house. I dried the plate and put it away. Terrence's family had a thing about Sunday dinners. If it wasn't at his parents' house, it was at someone else's house. Diane's apartment, his aunt's place. It rotated, but it was constant. The next Sunday, we were at his aunt's house. She'd made fried chicken and all the sides. The house was full of cousins and second cousins and people I'd met a dozen times, but whose names I could never quite remember. I helped set the table. It gave me something to do. His aunt came into the dining room carrying a pitcher of sweet tea. "Oh, Melissa, thank you so much for helping." I didn't correct her. It wasn't worth it. "Of course." She set down the pitcher and looked at me closely. "Melissa, right?" "Sarah? Oh, of course, Sarah. I'm so sorry." She laughed, embarrassed. "I'm terrible with names." "It's fine." But it wasn't fine. I'd been married to Terrence for 4 years. I'd been to dozens of family gatherings. His aunt still didn't know my name. Or maybe she did and just forgot every time. I don't know which was worse. At dinner, I sat between Terrence and a cousin I'd never spoken to before. The cousin was busy talking to someone on his other side. Terrence was busy talking to Diane, who was across the table. I ate my fried chicken. It was very good. His mother, sitting at the head of the table, raised her voice slightly to be heard over the conversations. "So, Terrence, how's work going?" He finished chewing before answering. "Pretty good, Mom. We just closed on that property downtown." "Oh, wonderful. Your father must be pleased." "Yeah, he is. It was a complicated deal, but we got it done." "I'm so proud of you, honey." She beamed at him. He smiled back. I thought about mentioning my promotion, about how I was now leading a team of 3 analysts, about how I'd be presenting to the board of directors next month. But I didn't. I just ate my chicken and listened to everyone talk around me. Maybe I should have said something. I don't know. After dinner, the men went to the living room to watch football. The women stayed in the dining room and kitchen, cleaning up. I stood at the sink, rinsing plates, listening to Terrence's mother and aunt discuss their book club. And then she had the nerve to say the ending was predictable, his aunt said. "Well, it was a little predictable," his mother said, laughing. "That's what I said." Diane was drying dishes next to me. "This is why I don't join book clubs. Too much drama." His mother and aunt laughed. I handed Diane another plate. She took it without looking at me. "How's your work going, Diane?" his mother asked. "Oh, Mom, it's crazy. I have 3 major projects right now, and they all want to be finished by the end of the month." "That sounds stressful." "It is, but it's good stress, you know? I love being busy." They talked about her projects. They asked questions. They offered sympathy and advice. I rinsed plates. The water was too hot. My hands were turning red. On the drive home, Terrence was in a good mood. That was nice. Mmm. My aunt's fried chicken is always perfect. It was good. You okay? You're quiet. Just tired. Yeah, I get that. Long week. We drove in silence for a while. Your aunt called me Melissa, I said. What? At dinner. She called me Melissa. Oh, that's weird. Who's Melissa? I don't know, not me. He laughed a little. She probably just got confused. She's getting older. She's 52. Still, people forget names. She's known me for 4 years. He was quiet for a moment. It's not a big deal, babe. She corrected herself, right? I corrected her. Well, there you go. I looked out the window. The street lights were blurring together. You're upset, he said. No, you sound upset. I'm just tired. We didn't talk the rest of the way home. Maybe I was being too sensitive. I thought about that a lot later. One evening, about a week later, I came home to find Terrence on the phone with Diane. This wasn't unusual, but something about his posture made me pause in the doorway. He was leaning forward, elbows on his knees, completely focused. No, I get it, he was saying. That's really frustrating. I set my bag down quietly and went to the kitchen. Have you talked to her about it? Pause. Well, maybe you should. Just be honest. I started making dinner, listening to the one-sided conversation. I know, but you can't keep doing all the work if she's not pulling her weight. I wondered who they were talking about. A client, probably, or one of Diane's employees. You're too nice, Dee. Sometimes you have to put your foot down. I chopped vegetables. The knife made a steady rhythm on the cutting board. Okay, well, let me know how it goes. I'm here if you need to vent. More murmuring. Love you too. Bye. He came into the kitchen a few minutes later. Hey, when did you get home? A few minutes ago. How was your day? Fine. Diane's dealing with some stuff at work. I heard. Yeah, she's got this assistant who isn't working out. It's a whole thing. He sat at the kitchen table and scrolled through his phone while I cooked. I thought about asking him about his day in more detail, about his work, his meetings, his projects. But I didn't. He wouldn't ask me about mine. We ate dinner with the television on, some show about home renovation. We watched people argue about backsplash tiles. Diane would hate that kitchen, Terrence said. Probably. She's got such a good eye for this stuff. After dinner, I went upstairs to work on a presentation. I heard him on the phone again. Diane again. His voice was warm, engaged. I closed my office door. The pattern continued. Days blended together, mornings of polite silence, evenings of adjacent existence, weekends of family obligations where I smiled and nodded and faded into the background. I started staying late at work more often, not because I had to necessarily, but because it was easier than going home to the quiet. My team noticed. Sarah, you're here late again. Just wrapping up some things. You work too hard, I smiled. Someone has to. But the truth was I was working hard because at work I was someone. I had a title. I had responsibilities. People knew my name and used it. They asked my opinion and listened to the answer. At home, I was becoming increasingly uncertain what I was. Terrence's birthday was in November. His family planned a party at his parents' house. It was a Saturday afternoon thing. Casual, they said. Just family. I spent the morning trying to decide what to wear. Something nice enough to show I'd made an effort, but not so nice that it looked like I was trying too hard. I settled on a dress I'd worn to a work function, professional, appropriate. When we arrived, the house was already full. Cousins everywhere. His aunt was there, the one who'd called me Melissa. His uncle was manning the grill outside. Diane was in the kitchen with their mother, arranging cheese and crackers on platters. "The birthday boy," his father called out when we walked in. Terrence grinned. Everyone hugged him, wished him happy birthday, handed him beers, and slapped him on the back. I stood there holding the gift I'd wrapped that morning, a nice watch he'd mentioned wanting months ago. I'd remembered because I always remembered things like that, or at least I tried to. His mother came over and hugged me. "So glad you could make it, dear." As if I'd had a choice, as if it was optional to attend my own husband's birthday party. "Of course," I said. "Go help yourself to some food. We've got so much." I went to the kitchen. Diane was still arranging platters. There was a smudge of something on the counter near the sink. "Hey," I said. She looked up. "Oh, hey, you." She didn't use my name. I noticed that now. She rarely did. "Can I help with anything?" "Nah, I've got it, but thanks." I stood there awkwardly for a moment, then went back to the living room. Terrence was holding court, telling a story about something that had happened at work. Everyone was laughing. He was good at this, at being the center of attention, at making people laugh. I found a chair in the corner and sat down. His cousin, the one I'd sat next to at his aunt's house, came over. "Hey there, you're Terrence's wife, right?" "Yes, Sarah." Right, Sarah. I'm terrible with names. I'm Leon." "Nice to meet you." "So what do you do?" Finally, someone was asking. "I'm a lead analyst at a healthcare consulting firm. I work on predictive models for hospital systems." He nodded slowly, already losing interest. "Oh, cool. That sounds technical." "It is. I'm in sales, medical devices." He launched into a story about his job. I listened politely, making appropriate noises at appropriate times. When he finished, he excused himself to get another beer. I sat in my corner chair and watched the party happen around me. Terrence's father proposed a toast. Everyone raised their glasses. "To Terrence, proud of the man you've become." "Hear, hear," everyone chorused. Terrence looked genuinely moved. His eyes were a little watery. I raised my glass with everyone else. I smiled when everyone else smiled. Later, when it was time for cake, everyone gathered around the dining room table. Terrence blew out the candles. His mother took pictures. Diane cut the cake. I stood at the edge of the group, watching. Someone's elbow bumped into me and they didn't notice. Terrence opened presents. He loved the watch. "This is perfect, babe. Thank you." He kissed me quickly, then turned to open the next present. Diane had gotten him a framed print for his office. I saw it and immediately thought of you. "Dee, this is amazing. I love it." They hugged. Everyone oohed and awed over the print. His parents had gotten him a new golf bag. His aunt and uncle had gotten him a gift card to his favorite restaurant. Everyone's gifts were acknowledged, appreciated, discussed. Mine was just fine. On the drive home, Terrence was buzzing with happiness. "That was such a good day." "I'm glad. My family is the best. I'm so lucky." "And you got me the perfect watch. I've been wanting one like this for months." "I know, you mentioned it." He reached over and squeezed my hand. "You're the best." I looked at our joined hands. It was the most physical affection we'd shared in weeks. When we got home, he was tired. "I think I'm going to turn in early." "Okay. You coming up?" "In a bit. I want to finish something for work." "On a Saturday night?" "It won't take long." He shrugged. "All right. Don't stay up too late." He went upstairs. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop closed in front of me. I wasn't working. I just didn't want to go to bed yet. I sat there for a long time, thinking about the party, about standing at the edge of the room, about being introduced as Terrence's wife, over and over without anyone using my name, about Leon asking what I did and then losing interest halfway through my answer, about the watch I'd given Terrence, the one I'd remembered because I paid attention, being just fine. I thought about work, about my team, about my next presentation. At work, I was Sarah. I was lead analyst. I was someone whose opinion mattered. Here, I was increasingly becoming no one at all. I went upstairs eventually. Terrence was already asleep. I got ready for bed quietly, then lay in the dark, listening to him breathe. I wondered if he'd notice if I stopped coming to family gatherings. Probably not. The holidays were approaching, which meant more family gatherings. Thanksgiving was at his parents' house, as always. Then there would be Christmas, then New Year's, a whole season of standing at the edges of rooms. I started to dread it in a way I never had before. Or maybe I had always dreaded it, but I was only now admitting it to myself. At work, I was preparing for my board presentation. It was scheduled for early December. My team and I had been working on it for weeks. "This is going to be impressive," my colleague James said, reviewing the slides. "The board is going to love this." "I hope so." "They will. The data is solid. The recommendations are practical. You've done excellent work, Sarah." There it was again, my name, used naturally, with respect. "Thanks, James." That evening, I tried to tell Terrence about the presentation, about how much work had gone into it, about how important it was. He was watching something on his phone. "The board presentation is in 2 weeks," I said. "I'm a little nervous about it." "You'll be fine. There are going to be 12 executives in the room. They're going to ask tough questions." I stopped talking. He didn't notice. His phone rang. Diane. He answered immediately. I went upstairs and closed my office door. I stayed there until late, reviewing my slides over and over. Even though they didn't need more work, I just didn't want to go back downstairs. Thanksgiving dinner was endless. 23 people crowded into his parents' dining room. 2 tables, actually. The main table and a kids' table, even though I was 34 and married. I ended up at the main table, wedged between Terrence's cousin and his uncle. Terrence was across from me, sitting between Diane and his mother. The blessing was long. His father thanked God for family, for health, for the food, for this gathering of loved ones. "Amen," everyone chorused. Then the chaos of passing dishes, turkey and stuffing and sweet potatoes and green beans and rolls and cranberry sauce. I filled my plate. I ate slowly, listening to conversations happen around me. "Pass the gravy, would you?" I passed the gravy. "This turkey is perfect, Mom." "Thank you, sweetheart." Terrence and Diane were deep in conversation about something. I couldn't quite hear what, but they were both laughing. His uncle asked me to pass the salt. I did. "Thanks," he said, then turned to his other side and started talking to Terrence's father about college football. I ate my turkey. It was very good. Someone had put paprika in it, I think. After dinner, the men went to the living room to watch football. The women stayed in the dining room and kitchen, cleaning up. I stood at the sink, rinsing plates, listening to Terrence's mother and aunt discuss their book club. And then she had the nerve to say the ending was predictable, his aunt said. "Well, it was a little predictable," his mother said, laughing. "That's what I said!" Diane was drying dishes next to me. "This is why I don't join book clubs. Too much drama." His mother and aunt laughed. I handed Diane another plate. She took it without looking at me. "How's your work going, Diane?" his mother asked. "Oh, Mom, it's crazy. I have 3 major projects right now, and they all want to be finished by the end of the month." "That sounds stressful." "It is, but it's good stress, you know. I love being busy." They talked about her projects. They asked questions. They offered sympathy and advice. I rinsed plates. The towels started to get damp and heavy. "What about you, dear?" his mother asked me suddenly. "How's your work?" "It's good. I have a big presentation coming up." "Oh, that's nice. What kind of presentation?" "To the board of directors. About our new patient outcome models." "That sounds very important." "It is. I'm hoping it goes well." "I'm sure it will." She patted my arm. "You're a smart girl." Then she turned back to Diane. "So how did you finally deal with that client?" And just like that, I was done. The conversation had moved on. I dried the rest of the dishes in silence. One evening, about a week later, I got home late from work. Terrence's car was in the driveway, but when I came in, the house was dark. "Terrence?" "In here." He was in the den, sitting in the dark, staring at his phone. "Why are the lights off?" "I don't know. I just sat down and never turned them on." I flipped the switch. He squinted in the sudden brightness. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, fine. Just tired." I set down my bag. "Do you want dinner?" "I can make something." "I ate already. There's pizza in the fridge if you want." "Okay." I went to the kitchen. I heated up 2 slices of pizza. I brought them back to the den and sat on the other end of the couch. We sat there in silence, him on his phone, me eating my pizza. After a while, I asked, "Do you want to do anything this weekend?" "Like what?" "I don't know. Something. Maybe drive up to the mountains? Go hiking? In December? We could bundle up. It might be nice." He was still looking at his phone. "Let's see how we feel. I might need to work Saturday." "Oh." More silence. "Terrence." "Yeah?" "When was the last time we did something? Just the 2 of us?" He looked up from his phone, thinking. "We went to Home Depot last weekend." "I mean something fun." "Oh." He thought some more. "I don't know. It's been busy." "Do you think maybe we should make time?" "For what?" "For each other." He set his phone down. "Is this about the hiking thing? Because I really don't think it's good hiking weather." "It's not about hiking." "Then what is it about?" I looked at him. I tried to figure out how to explain it, how to put into words the feeling of slowly disappearing. "Never mind." "No, tell me. You brought it up." "I just think we should spend more time together." "We spend time together. We live together." "That's not the same thing. What do you want me to do? Quit my job? Tell my family we can't see them anymore?" "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying?" I stood up. "Nothing. Forget it." I went upstairs. He didn't follow. Later, when he came to bed, I pretended to be asleep. I stayed in Chicago longer on my next trip. I took an extra day, then 2 extra days. Terrence didn't ask why. The project was going well. The hospital executives were impressed. They started talking about extending the contract, maybe making it permanent. I didn't mention it to Terrence. We were invited to another family dinner, his cousin's engagement party. I didn't want to go, but I went. The pattern was the same. Conversations that flowed around me. Terrence engaging with everyone except me. His family asking polite questions and moving on before I finished answering. At one point, his mother asked if we were thinking about children. I felt Terrence tense beside me. "Not right now," I said. His mother smiled. "Well, don't wait too long, dear." Terrence didn't say anything. Didn't tell his mother we hadn't discussed it. Didn't defend our choices. Just sat there quiet. Later, in the car, I asked him about it. "Why didn't you say anything when your mother brought up kids?" What was I supposed to say? That it's none of her business, that we'll decide when we're ready, anything. I don't want to start something with my mom. "But you're okay with her putting pressure on me?" "She wasn't putting pressure on you, she was just asking. She does this every time, Terrence, and you just sit there." "What do you want me to do?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. "I want you to act like you're on my side. I am on your side." "You never show it." We didn't talk the rest of the way home. The Chicago hospital offered me a permanent position, Senior Director of Predictive Analytics. Significant salary increase. Relocation assistance. I sat with the offer for a week. I didn't tell Terrence. Instead, I started thinking about logistics. I looked at apartments in Chicago. I calculated moving costs. I researched divorce lawyers. That last part surprised me, but once I started, I couldn't stop. I thought about what my life would look like: a clean apartment, a job where I was valued, weekends without obligatory family dinners, conversations with people who actually listened. No Terrence. That thought didn't hurt as much as I expected it to. I told him on a Tuesday. We'd just finished dinner. "I need to tell you something." He looked up from his phone. "What's up?" "I got a job offer in Chicago. Permanent position." "Oh, wow. Are you going to take it?" "I think so." He set his phone down. "What does that mean for us?" "I don't know." We sat in silence for a moment. "Do you want to move to Chicago?" he asked. "I want to take the job." "Okay, but what about us? Would I move with you?" I looked at him. "Do you want to?" "I don't know. My job is here. My family is here." "Right." More silence. "So what are you saying?" he asked. "I'm saying I'm taking the job." "And you want me to move with you?" "I'm not asking you to move with me." He stared at me. "Are you saying you want to move without me?" "I'm saying I'm taking the job. What you do is up to you." His face changed. "Are you leaving me?" "I'm leaving this situation." "What situation?" "The one where I'm invisible, where you don't know anything about my work or my life because you never ask, where your family treats me like I'm not even there and you don't say a word. That's not fair, isn't it? I love you. Do you?" "Yes." I nodded slowly. "You love the idea of me, the version of me that stays quiet and doesn't ask for too much. But you don't actually know me, Terrence. You don't know what I care about or what I'm working toward or what matters to me, because you've never asked." "That's not true." "Tell me about my work." "What?" "My work. Tell me what I do." He opened his mouth, closed it. "You analyze healthcare data." "For what purpose?" "To help hospitals." "How?" "I don't know the specifics." "Because you've never asked." "You're being unfair. I'm not a data analyst. I don't understand all the technical stuff." "I'm not asking you to understand it. I'm asking you to care about it. To ask questions, to show interest in something that's important to me." He stood up. "So you're leaving me because I don't ask enough questions about your job?" "I'm leaving because you don't see me." "I see you." "No," I said quietly. "You really don't." I slept in the guest room that night, and the next night, and the one after that. Terrence tried a few times to talk to me, to fix things, but his version of fixing was asking if I still wanted to take the job, as if this was about geography and not about years of being treated like background noise. "We can work on this," he said one night. "Work on what?" "Communication. I can ask more questions. I can be more interested." "It's not a checklist, Terrence." "Then what is it?" "It's noticing. It's caring. It's defending me when your family dismisses me. It's staying on the phone for more than 3 minutes when I tell you about something important. It's remembering details about my life because they matter, not because you're supposed to." I can do that. "You shouldn't have to try." I accepted the job. I hired a lawyer. I found an apartment in Chicago. Terrence was stunned. His family was stunned. They couldn't understand why I was leaving. His mother called me. "Terrence is heartbroken. Can't you two work this out?" "I don't think so." "But why? What happened?" I could have explained. I could have told her about the years of feeling invisible, about the dinners where nobody listened, about her son's inability to see me as anything more than an accessory to his life. Instead, I said, "It just didn't work out." That's so vague. Dear. I know. She tried a few more times. So did Diane. So did Terrence. They all wanted to know what went wrong. They wanted a dramatic reason, a clear villain, an event they could point to. But there wasn't one. There was just years of small moments, small dismissals, small silences, and eventually, those small things added up to something big enough that I couldn't stay anymore. I moved to Chicago on a Saturday. Terrence helped me pack. We were civil, almost friendly. "I still don't really understand why," he said, taping up a box. "I know, but you're sure?" "I'm sure." He nodded. He looked sad, confused, like he'd been walking along and suddenly fell into a hole he never saw coming. I felt bad for him, but not bad enough to stay. The apartment in Chicago was small, clean, quiet. I unpacked slowly. I arranged my books. I set up my home office. I made the space mine. My mother called. "How are you doing, baby?" "I'm okay." "Really?" "Really. I'm proud of you." I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that until she said it. Work was demanding. The hospital project was complex. I was managing a team now, making decisions, leading. I was good at it. People respected me. They listened when I spoke. They asked my opinion and valued my input. I came home tired most nights, but it was a good tired, the kind that comes from doing work that matters. I'd make dinner, I'd read, I'd watch whatever I wanted on television. Nobody called to talk for an hour about fabric samples. Nobody asked me polite questions and then looked away before I finished answering. Nobody treated me like I was invisible. Terrence texted occasionally, small things, asking how I was doing, telling me about his day. I responded politely, briefly. He called once. "I miss you." "I know. Do you miss me?" I thought about it. "I miss who I thought you were." That's not really an answer. It's the only one I have. We didn't talk much after that. Diane called one night. I almost didn't answer. The phone rang 3 times before I picked up. "Hey," she said. "I just wanted to check on you." "I'm fine. Terrence says you're doing really well." "The job is going well, yes." There was a pause. "Did I do something? To make you leave?" "No." "Then why did you go?" "I needed something different." "Different from what?" I thought about explaining, about all the dinners, all the conversations that flowed around me, all the time she and Terrence talked for hours while I sat in the same room, invisible. But she wouldn't understand. She'd never been invisible in her life. "Just different," I said. The divorce was finalized in September. Terrence didn't contest anything. We split things evenly. It was clean, straightforward. I signed the papers in my office during lunch, then I went back to work. That night, I sat in my apartment and felt nothing dramatic. No relief, no sadness. Just a quiet sense of closure. I'd left a marriage where I was unseen. I'd moved to a city where people knew my name and my work and actually cared about both. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't vindication. It was just the life I should have been living all along. My team presented our model at a board meeting. The hospital executives were impressed. They wanted to expand the program to their entire network. My supervisor pulled me aside afterward. "You've done remarkable work here. Thank you. We're lucky to have you." I smiled. I'm lucky to be here. And I meant it. Sometimes I think about Terrence, about his family, about those dinners where I sat quietly waiting to be noticed. I wonder if they ever realized why I left, if they talk about it sometimes, if they wonder. Probably not. But that's okay. I didn't leave to teach them a lesson. I didn't leave to prove a point. I left because staying meant disappearing completely, and I decided I'd rather be alone than invisible. Life in Chicago is good. The work is challenging. My team respects me. I've made a few friends, colleagues mostly, but that's enough for now. I live in a small apartment with plants on the windowsill. I wake up early. I work hard. I come home to quiet. It's a simple life, an honest one. Nobody knows about my marriage. Nobody asks why I moved here alone. If they did, I'd tell them the truth. I came here for the job, and that would be enough of an answer. My mother visits once. She loves the apartment. She loves seeing me at work, in my element. You look happy, she says. I am. I'm glad you left. I look at her, surprised. She takes my hand. I could hear it in your voice. For years. You were disappearing. You never said anything. I was waiting for you to say it first. We sit together in my small living room drinking tea, and I feel seen in a way I haven't in years. I don't think about Terrence much anymore. Sometimes I wonder if he's dating someone new, if he's learned to ask questions, to notice things. But mostly, I don't wonder. That part of my life is over. This is the new part, the part where I matter, where my work is recognized, where people listen when I speak. It's not dramatic, it's not spectacular, but it's mine, and that's enough. If this story moved you, don't leave without letting us know. Your likes, your comments, and your subscription aren't just buttons. They're the heartbeat of this community. They help these stories reach someone who might need them today. Thank you for walking this journey with us. Until the next one, stay strong, stay safe, and stay connected.